This is Access Door County, and I am your host, Victoria Cerinich. Today's guest is Dean Volenberg, the agriculture agent at the Door County University of Wisconsin Extension Office. Dean will introduce Wisconsin viticulture for us today. Welcome, Dean.
Good morning, Victoria.
I would like you to tell us a little bit about the UW Extension Services and the agriculture agent.
Well, our program, Victoria, here in Door County is a little bit different than most other places. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Peninsula Agriculture Research Station, so I do a lot of research at the research station in regards to viticulture. And so this gives a lot of people that come into the Extension Service the opportunity to also visit the research station and see what I'm doing as far as research. So this is a unique opportunity for people to come in, ask questions about the viticulture program, but also take something away for what they want. It's more personalized service, so they can call me, or they can visit, come into the office, or they even can call the Peninsula Ag Research Station. Matt Stasiak, who's the superintendent there, and I work together in this project.
Okay. Dean, that was a lot of information in one paragraph. Let's take it a little bit slower. Okay?
All right.
Now, why don't you tell me what viticulture is?
Viticulture is the study of grapes. So here in Door County, we work with a couple different types of grapes. We work mainly with wine grapes, but we also work with table grapes, or the grapes you eat.
And is that new for Door County, having grapes in the area?
Well, specifically it is. Today we're talking, and it's about 15 degrees below zero. And typically we didn't grow these grapes in the state of Wisconsin, much less Door County when it was so cold. But now that Minnesota has developed these varieties that are cold hardy, we can grow grapes here.
So you work with the universities in Minnesota to develop different fruits or vegetables?
We don't necessarily do the breeding. They do the breeding work in Minnesota, but we trial the grapes at the research station. In fact, we have a variety trial which people can visit.
And I visited the website, which there are two websites involved. One is for the University of Extension, and it's kind of a long, what is it, dor.uwex.edu?
That's correct. Or you can simply just Google Door UWEX and it'll come up.
Okay. And then when you go to that website, you can select the agriculture pull down. And when you do that, you can look at the different programs. And that's where you will find some of this information about viticulture?
Correct. You can find some of the information on viticulture, but most of my clients and clientele that I work with will call me personally, or they'll come in and visit with me because they have personalized questions. The website more or less will answer, I would say, questions that aren't so specific for growers.
So it was pretty good for me, except it did have some tables with some 16 or 17 different varieties of grapes that I didn't know because none of them were Cabernet Sauvignon. So that's my familiar one. But when an individual calls you, what's a typical individual? A grape grower here or a potential grape grower?
I have all kinds of people call me. Some people are interested in growing grapes. Some people already have grapes in the ground. And some people are just calling from outside the state to ask what kind of research we're performing here and how that I can help them select a variety. So typically most people are interested in a specific variety selection.
And so when they ask you what kind of research you're doing, can you give me an example of a variety of I call up and I ask, because I did my homework, and there is a grape selection here, and I'm going to read off a little grape. And we have, for instance, the Frontenac, or Frontenac Gris. If someone calls and asks questions about that grape, what can you tell them about your research?
Well, let's typically step back a minute. You mentioned Cabernet Sauvignon. We don't grow, that's called Vitis vinifera. We don't grow any of those varieties here in the state of Wisconsin, simply because they are not cold hardy.
Oh, so that explains why I didn't recognize most of these, because I'm looking at grapes that were grown in Mediterranean areas.
So typically, yes, most of the consumers will look at grapes and they'll think of grapes such as you mentioned, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Zinfandel. None of those grapes are cold hardy here in the state of Wisconsin. So what the breeding programs have from not only Minnesota, but Arkansas, and also the Cornell in New York, have developed grapes that are cold hardy. So some of the grape varieties you're looking at, you might not recognize. Well, let me just tell you a little bit more about these grapes. They're actually a cross between American native grapes, or let me give you an example. So you see the wild grapes growing in the wild, and they're kind of growing all over tangled?
Oh, they're not just raspberries.
No, no, no. So those are very cold-hardy grapes. But what they've done, the breeders have taken these wild grapes that are native to North America, and they've bred them with the European grapes, or the grapes you're familiar with, Cabernet Sauvignon or Zinfandel. So it matches two great things, cold hardiness, but also the great quality that you're familiar with, such as Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot.
Now, when they're breeding them, in addition to cold hardiness, I imagine they're looking for how much juice you can get out of a grape, or how sweet it is. What do those traits have to do? Why is Door County a good place for grapes with certain traits?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at here at the Peninsula Ag Research Station in our grape variety trial is we're looking at things such as grape quality. So for you, it might not be familiar. So we look at things called something like bricks. And that's not bricks and mortar in a wall, Victoria. That's sugar content or soluble solids. So we're looking at how much sugar they produce. And sugar equates into what?
Alcohol.
Correct. So we're
See,
looking,
I've learned something already. We're doing all right.
so we're looking at sugar content. We're looking at the musk quality, or what color it is. And
Musk means color, okay?
Right. So after the grapes are pressed, what kind of color we're getting out of those grapes. We're also looking at, of course, yield. But yield isn't the most important thing in grape production. Not like corn or soybeans that we typically see grown. We're looking at also quality. So we want to produce high quality juice to produce high quality wine.
So if we have we do the research here, and someone calls you and inquires, what am I doing right or wrong, or I want to start a program, you give them some advice on that based on your research. But why is Door County now looking like a place to grow grapes, not just cherries and apples?
Well, if you looked at the map today, and it's very cold out today, it's here the first week of January, January 7th, I believe, and we're at 15 below. If you look at other places in the state, such as you go to the west into Anago or over into Spooner, that area, they've had the coldest recorded temperatures in history of Wisconsin. I think in Coudray at one time in 1995, it was minus 56 below, and that didn't include wind chill. So Door County's moderated by the lake effect, so we don't get quite as cold. We don't have as long a growing season as they do in southern Wisconsin, but we have a long enough season to produce some of these grape varieties.
Would these grape varieties be used for wine?
Correct. A lot of those varieties would be used for wine.
We have several vineyards in Door County now. I understand they're doing blending. Do you know more about what that wine trail is in Door County? Are these some of the people that you may be in communication with?
Yeah, so the wine trail that's developed in Door County contains all the wineries in Door County. And what these wineries are doing is they decided to group together and band because they learned by coming together as a group, they could offer a product such as Door County wines and give people a destination to attend to and come to and visit. And all of these wineries develop and make different wineries. I always look at a winery as something like a candy store. You can go in and taste a lot of different wines. And of course, some you'll like, some you'll not like. Just like some people like chocolate and some people don't.
Now, are some of their grapes grown here, or are they still working on those programs?
Yeah, one of the unique things about the state of Wisconsin, and in fact the whole Midwest and the cold climate areas, is actually we can grow certain varieties of grapes here, but also they can grow certain varieties down south that have a longer maturity. So we can't grow them here in Door County because we have about 2,300 growing degree days or heat unit accumulations that will mature these grapes. But some of the varieties we'll bring up from the southern part of the state that we can't grow here because we don't have a long enough growing season. And that way we can trade grapes throughout the state based on the different qualities and parameters.
And so that helps to make a wine a blend, so much percentage of one grape and so much percentage of another.
Yeah, typically when wineries are blending juices of grapes or wines, a finished wine, what they'll do is they'll take and blend it to take and develop a certain complexity to that wine. So they'll balance the acidity with the sugar content. Some grapes will be just added for color. And let's consider red wine, for instance.
Sure.
So if you look at red wines, there'll be all different color spectrums. There'll be light starting at rosé to really deep, deep reds. And when we look at those, there's certain varieties of grapes, such as one that we grow here in the cold climates called Valiant. And Valiant is a really dark, deep purple grape. And we call this grape, even though it doesn't have great wine qualities, it has great inking qualities, we call it in the industry. And they'll add small amounts of that Valiant grape into red juice that's light to basically make it look
To
a
make
deeper
it
red.
more attractive to the person who is going to be the ultimate consumer.
Correct, correct.
So you've now got the wine trail, and explain the wine trail a little bit for us in Door County. And you've explained that there's research done at the Peninsula Agriculture Research Station, and you are the agriculture agent. Tell me a little bit more about the agriculture agent part of the UW Extension. How did you end up in that role? You've been there several years, 20 maybe?
No, I've only been in the role 7 years, Victoria.
7? Oh, goodness.
So interesting, my educational background, I got my degrees from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I have a degree in natural science, a degree in horticulture, and also have a degree in agronomy. And agronomy is grain crops that most people think of like row crops.
Okay.
But I also spent a portion of my time out in California, so I became interested in the wine industry that was developing in the Midwest. And so that is something that I wanted to develop here back in the state of Wisconsin. So working with clientele, working with my colleagues throughout the extension services. I have a colleague down in Vernon County. And so we developed this program around viticulture. And the reason why is because what we want to do is we want to take and build an industry that Wisconsin can build on. And Wisconsin has a unique agricultural historical background, and we also have a great tourism background, and it fits perfectly with Door County's environment.
So it fits with both of those parameters. And when I looked at the website, I determined that you had quite a lot to offer, because you don't just deal with grain crops. You also deal with some of the dairy issues and some of the cover crops. And so the UW Extension agriculture subset is quite important to the growers in Door County and the residents of Door County, because those cover crops help with that too.
Correct. So I deal with a lot of different problems, everything from homeowners' problems with gardening, for instance. So maybe they want to take a soil sample and see how the fertility in their soil is, or their lawn. But then it goes all the way into the grain crops, such as corn and soybeans, looking at those soil fertility levels, or looking at potentially how much manure a dairy farmer can apply to an acre of land.
Well, and that becomes very important for everyone to know in the community, that that's done safely, and we can all continue to have our dairies and continue to have our clean well water. Do you accept volunteers, or are any outside people ever involved in the work that you do at the UW Extension?
The work that I do, I don't have a lot of volunteers except for the Master Gardeners program. So the Master Gardeners program is actually called the Master Gardeners Volunteers. And what this is a group of individuals that come together to get training starting this month in January. And they'll go through a training process, and then they become volunteers. And what these people do is they go out into the communities in which they live, and they do garden projects, maybe beautification for a downtown area, or a business that's located downtown, or maybe even working for something like Crossroads in the Heritage Garden, or the Ridges, donating time there.
Where is the training program done for the Master Gardeners?
Most of the training for the Master Gardeners is done at the Peninsula Ag Research Station.
And that is training that you provide? You're hands-on with the volunteers?
I do some of the training, but I also work with a Master Gardeners. One of the Master Gardeners has been in the program a long time, and that's Rod Bone. And he takes over the educational program, but I do some of the training for the Master Gardeners.
So looking at this year, 2014, what's ahead for the UW Extension Agriculture Agent and Viticulture?
Well, some of the unique things that we just did starting at the end of 2013 is we developed what I would call a partnership with NWTC, or Northeastern Wisconsin Technical College. And they have an educational program called VESTA, which stands for Viticulture, Enology, Science, Technology.
And education.
No,
Agronomy.
No.
Astronomy.
Alliance.
Alliance. Okay, so let's do that one again, Dean. Let's do that one again.
I'll just start over. So one of the unique things that we have going forward in 2014 is in 2013 we started a partnership with NWTC, or Northeastern Wisconsin Technical College. And they have a program called VESTA, which takes and trains people in both viticulture and enology. The program The acronym VESA stands for Viticulture, Enology, Science, Technology Alliance. And this is a group of technical colleges that has come together to provide this training.
Okay, we know that viticulture is a study of grapes.
Correct.
And enology is the study of...
Enology is the study of wine or winemaking.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty interesting. You put chocolate on top of that, and I'm sure everybody will be signing up. If people want to get involved in that at the Northeast Wisconsin Technical College or through you, do they just call your office?
They can, but it would be easier just to call Northeastern Wisconsin Technical College in Green Bay and sign up for the courses.
Okay, so you have to sign up, you go through the Green Bay office
Right,
to
and
sign
what-
up. But
and-
we'll have the program here in Door County.
Well, I'll talk a little bit about that here. One of the unique things about the VESTA programs is it's all online. So you do all your coursework, you can continue your job and continue doing what you want to do, but you learn online at your own pace during the semester of the courses. So you don't even have to leave. But one of the unique things of the program, as I mentioned, we developed a teaching vineyard at the Peninsula Ag Research Station with the college down in Green Bay. And so some of the programs we'll be developing this coming 2014 will help to train some of the students who were in the program come over to the Peninsula Ag Research Station and receive training.
So some of the students that take the VESTA program online would then have the information to recontact you and say, I want to take the next step and I want to come over to the Peninsula Agriculture Research Station here in Sevastopol, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they will participate in this demonstration project that you have. Is that right?
That's kind of correct. The VESTA, what's unique about the VESTA program, both in the viticulture program and
hard to say, isn't it?
Yeah, also in the viticulture program and the enology program, is students who are enrolled in that program have to put in some credits or some time towards an internship. And part of that internship training they can get through UW Extension and NWTC. As an example, let me tell you what we'll be doing this spring. Since we put in the grapes last year, we'll be doing a trellis construction workshop this coming spring.
And what's a trellis construction?
Well, of course, you know that grapes grow all over and wind all over, but in production viticulture, we actually train the grapes to grow on a trellis system. So we develop a trunk system that goes up, and then we develop a cordon system that goes across.
Okay.
So all grapes and different grapes have different trellis systems. So we'll be developing a trellis system with the help of some of the people that are in the VESTA program this year.
So all the grapes don't like to climb on the same trellises. You have to have a unique trellis system for certain varieties.
Well, yes, and here in the cold climates, we basically do only two different types of trellises. We have one called a VSP, or vertical shoot positioning trellis, or we have a high wire cordon trellis system. So only two different systems. And we'll be putting in a vertical shoot positioning trellis at the research station this spring.
So you'll show these students how to do this.
Correct.
And how to help train the vines to grow up the trellis system. So that's this spring. So looking at a viticulture from an outsider's point of view and someone who wants to learn, I would start by going online and learning, going through the VESTA program. I would contact the offices and say, I want to do my credits over at the research station, and I'd be put to work learning how and installing a trellis system. Any other next steps after that?
Well, yeah, let's just take a step back from that, though.
Okay, I missed something.
Well, you kind of missed something. One of the things you have to remember that all UW Extension programs that we offer are always open to the general public. Mm-hmm. So even though we're training some of the VESTA students, yourself, for instance, could come to this program, or anybody else in Door County who's interested in grape production. So
I could work right, I didn't have to take the VESTA program to learn how to do the trellis system.
No.
Okay.
So anybody in the general public is always welcome to come to any of our educational programs.
And other just focusing on the viticulture and the wine production, anything else this year for
So yes, we'll develop the trellis workshop coming up this spring, but we also always have a pruning workshop that's typically held in March or April, depending on the weather. Some years we have it earlier if we don't have to stand hip high in snow, but some years we'll have it later.
And is that pruning just for grapes, or pruning for grapes and apples and cherries?
No, that pruning specifically to grapes.
Okay.
And then coming up in March and April, we also have what we call the Peninsula Ag Research Fruit School. So all of these courses that are coming up, You can always look online on our website or at the Peninsula Ag Research website, and they're typically always advertised there.
Okay, so the website for the extension office is door.uwex.edu.
Correct.
It's a mouthful, and then pull the right tabs down for agriculture. Or the Peninsula Research Station is ARS for Agriculture Research .wisc.edu/peninsular.
Correct.
We'll put those up on the screen so people can see them as well. I have phone numbers for you if someone has a question, and I have 920-746-2263.
Correct, that's my direct line.
Okay, otherwise it's 746-2260 for the office if they're interested in any of the programs at the UW Extension.
That's correct.
And then 920-743-5406 will get you the Peninsula Agriculture Research Station. Because quite a bit of this information is a lot to digest at one time, and you do offer personalized service. That's what we started with at this interview, saying it's not so much about handouts as it is call me, tell me what your question is.
Correct. So let me just give you an example. Typically somebody who call me who's interested in viticulture, it all starts with what I call a site selection or a site visit. Because you just can't take grapes and plant them willy-nilly anywhere. You have to pick a particular site. And one of the things we're typically not worried with anymore is really cold hardiness, because we have grape varieties that will stand cold down to 30 below zero.
It's a good thing right now, considering it's a little cool.
But what we're really interested in is really protecting them grapes in the spring when we have that late frost events when they're budding out. And that's why Door County is such a great place to grow grapes, because we have what's termed a late spring, because the ice goes out from the bay and from the lake, and it has this cooling effect, so bud break doesn't happen until later after it's warmed up in the environment.
So we've got some advantages, and grapes may really thrive here, and that's what we're hoping, because it'll be good for our community and our economic development, good for those of us that like wine. Is there anything else you'd like to add for us today, Dean?
Well, two things. I think one thing you should consider is the state of Wisconsin. In 2007, when I started this program, there were 43 wineries in the state and about 300 acres of grapes. Today, there's over 100 wineries in the state of Wisconsin and over 1,500 acres. And for more information, they can also look, one of the resources you didn't have available is so they can go to the Wisconsin Grape Growers Association website. And we advertise all our programs in regards to viticulture and enology also on that website.
And this will be a local business and local agriculture, so it's good for all of us. Well, I'd really like to thank you, Dean, for introducing Wisconsin viticulture and the UW Extension role in Wisconsin viticulture for those of us that live in Door County. And I hope you've enjoyed your time here.
Thank you very much, Victoria.
Okay. You have been watching Access Door County with your host, Victoria Cerinich. Today's guest was Dean Volenberg, the agriculture agent at the UW Extension office here in Door County. You have been watching Sevastopol TV, your video voice of Door County, carried exclusively on channel 986. Thank you for watching.